Welcome to the 30 and Nerdy Podcast, brought to you by Advertising Expressions, Creative Theater, Akita Express, and Encore Theatrical Company. Visit us online at 30andnerdypodcast.com. Drop us an email at 30andnerdypod@gmail.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Become a patron of the show at patreon.com/30nerdypodcast. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoy the show. And now, sit back, relax, and get ready to nerd out with your hosts, Josh Davis and Tyler McDaniel.
What's up, nerds and nerdettes? This is the podcast where everyone knows your name.
Cheers to you.
Cheers to ya.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Tyler, and this is 30 and Nerdy. And we are coming at you from the fortress of nerditude with yours truly, the registered nerd practitioner, the founder of Nerdledge, the nerd Napoleon Bonaparte of Morristown,
Jeez.
the Mac. And I am joined by my co-host here, the juicy one, the nerd-torious JLD, the PhD of nerdology, Sergeant Sound Effect himself, Dr. Davis.
Woo! That's right. I'm here.
For those of you listening, again, thank you for all of the subscriptions and shares and likes and joining in on the conversation on Twitter and Facebook. We hope that you are enjoying it as much as we are. If you are listening for the first time, you can catch us on iTunes, GooglePlay, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you cast your pod.
And of course, wherever you're listening to right now, if you're listening to
absolutely.
For the first time.
Also, we hope you'll check us out at podchaser.com and rate our show as well as individual episodes. That lets us know what you like and what you don't like, so Season 2 doesn't have that stuff in it.
What's not to like, though? Would you look at us?
They can't look at us.
Well, they can look at our pictures.
They can. Stare at our Facebook picture. Look at us.
Stare at them for 3 hours every day. Only then can you reach the 7th level of nerd.
Oh my gosh. So how's your day been, man?
Great, man. It's the time of year where everybody's really busy, lots of stuff going on, shopping, cooking, working, all that stuff. Emma and Becky are upstairs watching The Grinch right now, the original animated one. So,
good.
Yeah, it's that time of year, and I'm not enjoying the cold weather,
right?
Unless it gets me a snow day,
which we've almost
had one.
Yeah, you've had one, and it looked like you were almost going to have another one last night.
Yeah, I don't get my hopes up very much, so
yeah.
Yeah.
In this area, you can't.
Yeah. So the last time we talked, at least on the show,
yes,
it was right before Thanksgiving.
Yes.
So happy late Thanksgiving to our listeners.
Happy late Thanksgiving.
Hope you had a wonderful day of Thanksgiving
and food
and shopping.
Black
and
Friday
all that
shopping.
stuff. I did not go Black Friday shopping.
I don't do it ever. I've never done it.
I've done it a few times. When Becky and I first started dating, she got me into going, and I was like, "Oh, look at all these movies and video games I can get for really cheap." But I got to the point where I couldn't handle the people. Makes my anxiety flare up. All the people and all the hubbub. I just can't do it. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it was before Thanksgiving since we talked, and you went on a big trip since then.
I did. Went to New York City with family. Normally on Thanksgiving, we are in Knoxville just eating away, watching football. But this year we want to do something different, something fun. With everybody kind of cutting their own niche in life, we didn't know how many Thanksgivings moving forward we'd all be able to just take the time to go.
Yeah.
So we caught the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, which has been a dream of ours for years because that our tradition is to always wake up early, make coffee and cinnamon rolls, and watch the parade.
Right.
We were lucky, however, though it was only 50 degrees that day.
Oh,
It
nice.
was very windy, so some of the smaller floats were having trouble.
50 degrees in the end of November in New York City is really not that bad.
No,
So-
we were lucky.
Yeah.
Because the next day it was 29 degrees.
Oh, no.
But yeah, the TV does not do justice to these floats, man. I mean, these things are huge. They are massive. I'll put up some of my favorite pictures from it on our Facebook page. Like Super Saiyan God Goku is one of the floats, and it's a spectacle. It's something that I definitely recommend. If you get a chance one year, check it out. Go. And I also got to see Moulin Rouge, which is one of the, it's the only time that I've left a Broadway musical, which I've seen about 10 or 11 now, and say perfect. It was it was beautiful.
Looks good.
It was amazing. Definitely check that out, too, if you like musicals. So you were, when we last spoke, on your way to Nashville.
I was headed to Nashville with some of the kids at school. I'm a sponsor for our Beta Club, and if you don't know what Beta is basically means you're the best of the best. You academically, your behavior, and one of the big components of it is service and leadership and things like that. And every year we have a big competition in Nashville. All these kids from all over the state come there. About 6,000 kids, I think, in total. And we have competitions in academics and talent and art and all kinds of stuff. We did very well. The competition that I helped with was Songfest, where you take the lyrics to a modern, well, any song you want, really, but you change it to make it about Beta. We came in 4th place in the state with that, so we're very proud of that.
That's awesome.
Very good. And then we had 1st place in the state in living literature, which is where you build a little set from a book, and you have a scene that laid out here, and your kids go in poses and stuff, and they have to be still for a few minutes while people walk by and look like you're looking at a museum or something. Yeah. We came in 1st place in that. We did Hansel and Gretel. I was not involved with it, so I can't take any credit for that, but it was really, really great. And then our other big winner was speech. Our girl that prepared a speech for the competition, she went out there and got 1st place in the entire state.
That's awesome.
So we're super, super proud. My school really showed up and cleaned that place out.
Good.
With awards. So
Good. I miss doing that.
It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, but seeing the smiles on the kids' faces is where it pays off.
All the work is worth it when they get there and they see all the excitement and all the thousands of other kids, and there's bright lights and loud music, and the Opry Mills Hotel is like a huge, huge, huge thing.
Yes.
You can get lost in there. People can spend days in there without going
outdoor,
out.
indoor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could, when the weekend was over and I walked outside for the first time, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot. And I've been inside in this one big massive building for an entire weekend. But anyway.
Absolutely. Were the Voices of Lee back?
They did not come back this year. Yeah.
I always look forward to
It's
that.
been a couple years since I had been involved with Beta. I took a little hiatus, but we used to have some entertainment on the last day. It was the Voices of Lee a cappella group.
Talent.
But they did not come this year. So.
That's a shame. So also, we got some special gifts from friends of ours because they are thankful for us.
Who's not thankful for us? You know?
Right, I know.
I'm thankful for us.
First up is from our friends Zach and Brenda at Advertising Expressions, which you've heard us talk about them quite a bit. They take care of some of our swag, our hats and shirts and stuff like that, and they can do the same for you. Right now they have a Tervis deal going on their website, and if you let them know that you heard about it from 30 and Nerdy Podcast, they'll give you an even bigger discount. And he wrote a little poem. He created this card for us. It's a thank you card for supporting, and he wrote a little poem on the back, and it says, "May your stuffing be tasty, may your turkey plump, may your potatoes and gravy have nary a lump, may your yams be delicious and your pies take the prize, may your Thanksgiving dinner stay off of your thighs." And that's kind of cute. I like that. You are
funny.
a poet, Zach. Thank you to them. They are very supportive of the show. They help us out often and in more ways than we could ever describe. We do have a store coming out very soon, within days away, so we are very excited about that, and Zach has been working tirelessly on that. Our other friends over at Johnny Has the Keys podcast, Tim and David, sent us a little Patreon gift. They sent us a shirt. They also sent us these nice little letters, which are like, Constitution paper.
Let me get a hold of this. Listen to this.
Yes.
It's like heavy card stuff.
Yes. It's the stuff that Michael Scott would just freak out over.
Got their whole logo printed on the paper already, man.
And it's really nice. And their season 1 layout that they just got finished with, and they just started season 2 over at Johnny Has the Keys, and they gave us a rundown of what's coming up, as well as a special reward certificate allowing us what looks like to submit as many questions as we have.
Yeah, they may regret that before it's all said and done.
Because I have a lot of questions, Tim and David. One for David is, why don't you call anymore? I mean, where you been, David? I mean, we don't talk anymore. But I digress. So thank you guys. I do thank you. Thank you all so much. We are very thankful for you all and very appreciative. Even if you, and especially our guests that are on this episode, we have been so appreciative of them. They have been very active with us on Twitter, retweeting and favoriting, and
great guys.
We are part of the Next Wave podcast group, as well as the Pod Nation, along with our friends that we talk to, Ocho Duro Parlay Hour.
Yeah, they're going to be joining us for our Break It Down segment on this episode, where we all get together and we talk about some of the BMFs of the Star Wars universe.
The biggest, meanest fighters.
Well, of course. What did you think I meant?
Oh, I thought you might have meant baddest melee fighters.
You know what? Either one works for me.
Yeah.
They're all BMFs.
Absolutely.
And you're going to hear a lot about these BMFs in detail toward the end of the show when we have our guests on.
Yes.
It's a great chat. Don't miss it.
Absolutely. And before we get to the rest of our show, why don't we take a break and breaks are good. Give me a break. Give me a break. All right, we're going to take a break and listen to a word from our sponsor.
Just in time for the holidays, it's Lionel Bart's award-winning Dickens musical masterpiece, Oliver. The streets of Victorian England come to life with some of the most memorable characters and songs ever to hit the stage. Oliver is a co-production of Encore Theatrical Company and Walter State Community College Department of Music and Theatre. Oliver is proudly presented by K-Tom Restaurant Supply Incorporated, MUS FiberNet, Sykes, Lakeway Dermatology Associates, Tar Chevrolet and Hyundai, Aaron's, Hampton Inn and Suites, Ashley Lodge Photography, Freddy Cat Productions, The Citizen Tribune, and WJDT and WBGQ. Oliver runs November 29th through December 8th at the Walter State Inman Humanities Complex Theatre, and is presented through special arrangement with Music Theatre International. Tickets are on sale now at etcplays.org or by calling 423-318-8331.
Hey all you nerds out there in Nerdland, this is David.
And this is Tim.
And we're from Johnny Has the Keys podcast, a podcast where horror and sci-fi shape our lives.
You're listening to Josh and Tyler of the 30 and Nerdy podcast, where they discuss, debate, and break it down with nerd culture and the nerds that reside there. If you like listening to these guys, consider coming over to the dark side with us on your favorite podcast platform of choice.
Cheers to you, nerds, and don't forget your keys.
All right, it is time to talk nerdy to you. Now, I have to admit, this is not the nerdiest of words, but other podcasters will get it. It is called podcrastination.
Yeah?
And this terrible act that every podcaster has been guilty of, even the professional all the way down to us lowly indie ones. Whether it be putting off notes or watching what you were supposed to watch for that day or reading the news or what have you, all of us podcast show hosts have podcrastinated before. I'm going to give you an example. Tyler, that'd be me, absolutely podcrastinated on Talk Nerdy to me the other week, thus having to improv the definition of King of Nerds.
Yeah, I can't really say much because I'm pretty guilty of it too, but you, my friend, may be the king of podcrastination.
I am the king of podcrastination. I believe it was the second episode of Mandalorian. I did not watch the first time until right before I was coming over to your house to do our Mandalorian Monday.
Sounds about right.
And luckily, we were like, I have to watch it again. And I was like, oh, cool, I'll watch it again and take notes, too. This is my second time as well.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, God, I'm about to go to Josh's. I got to watch this.
Nice.
I'm the king of it, I'm telling you. So use that word this week, podcrastination. Be like, a couple weeks ago, they had Tenacious Tara O on, and I could tell in Tyler's patterns during Talk Nerdy to me that he podcrastinated.
Everybody's talking about that, of course.
Of course they are. I know they're talking about it. It's all over the dirt sheets. Tyler podcrastinated again. So use that word. So we're going to now get to Josh's favorite segment of the show called What You Watching? So, JD, what you watching?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm watching. You really want to know what I'm watching?
Yes.
I'll tell you. I've been watching Star Wars, baby. I've been watching all the Star Wars.
The Wars.
Past week or two, I was watching the prequels in Star Wars. And I talked a little bit about that last time. This week, watched the OG trilogy. All the way from Star Wars to Return of the Jedi. I got to tell you, man, it was a lot of fun.
So the OGs, the original Star Wars, was every time you watch it again, is it just as fulfilling as the last time?
I think so. And it being this time of year, it takes me back to Christmas when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and they had just released the trilogy, the remastered versions on VHS. I've still got it right down there.
I do too.
In the little gold case with Vader on it. Yeah. I got that for Christmas one year, and I remember spending Christmas night just binging Star Wars. So it makes me think about that with it being this time of year.
When is it that they put Hayden's Anakin in Return of the Jedi?
So they put the Hayden Christensen Spirit Ghost
instead of the original Vader actor.
Yeah, they put him in when they did the first DVD release, which was like 2004.
Yeah,
and seeing that again, it kind of burned me up a little bit.
Well, yeah, because
why does he die a middle-aged man and come back as Hayden Christensen?
Who nobody really liked.
Nope, I sure didn't. So I don't know. But
well, that's cool.
Yeah, so I've just been trying to get prepared for Star Wars month. Here on 30
Which
and
is
30.
upon us.
It's here. I mean, I've been waiting for months for this.
I know.
So, yeah, I'm celebrating watching Star Wars. This coming week, I'm going to rewatch The Force Awakens. Haven't watched it since Last Jedi came out. So,
really?
Because I watched it right like the day before Last Jedi opened. So, I'm going to watch Force Awakens this week so we can have a big discussion about it next week.
Good.
So, yeah, everybody watch Star Wars with us this month.
So, I tried to join you on your path to watch all the way through every Star Wars until we go see
Rise of Skywalker.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I talked about it with ODPH when we were talking to him. I had to about halfway through. I didn't even get to Maul attacking them
on Tatooine?
The first time on Tatooine. I didn't get that far. I got to meeting Anakin, Qui-Gon, and Shmi talking. And before the pod racing, and I was just like, I can't do this anymore.
The Tatooine stuff is all pretty rough.
I had to skip it, man. Like I turned it off immediately and turned on Attack of the Clones.
Well, did you at least get to see Jar Jar eating the frog off of the thing in Tatooine?
Yes, I got to see that, and Bulba's beating his butt.
Yeah.
I think I turned it off a little bit after his tongue went numb.
That's right before the pod race. I think.
Yeah, right before the pod race.
Yeah, well, hey, Sebulba and Jar Jar.
Oh,
you've
man.
seen the best of Phantom Menace at that point. So
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think you made the right move.
I mean, I had gotten to see Sebulba, some pods, being worked on, Jar Jar, and early 3PO. Like, I was sad I didn't need to watch
Hayden
anything
Christensen,
else.
though.
No,
Not in that one.
no. That is the only thing missing from episode 1 is Hayden Christensen.
For its full, complete turn
Full
to the dark side.
Awesomeness. Not. So I had to skip onto Attack of the Clones, man, which I finished it straight through. Then I went through Revenge of the Sith, and I'll start A New Hope probably tomorrow after rehearsal.
Revenge of the Sith was the only one that I did in one sitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've tried to watch it with eyes of this is Star Wars, and I love it, and I'm happy to be watching it. But maybe I can't turn off this analytical side of my brain. I just can't.
It ruins it for you.
It does. It really does. I wish I could turn it off and just be a kid again. Like I used to watch stuff that most people would be like I turned on the Neverending Story a few weeks ago, and I was like, this is crap.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I loved it as a kid.
It's tough because stuff doesn't really hold up the same way it did.
It doesn't.
But
the originals do still.
Yeah,
for me.
That's true. They do.
For most people.
Yeah.
So I've been watching Star Wars as well. And we got the finale of the Titans, season 2 finale. The season has been fantastic, but the finale didn't land as successful as every other episode.
Man.
I mean, Nightwing does show up. He finally dons the Nightwing persona, and he becomes something he needs to be, and it's good. It's good.
Does this Nightwing have the blue or the red
The
on
blue.
his suit?
He has the blue on his suit.
I like
He's
the
got
blue
the
better.
electric pole things.
Perfect.
And his fight with Deathstroke was fantastic. But it's just...
The fight scenes in Titans, just in the whole first half of season 1 that I have seen, their fight scenes are awesome.
Look at the
dude. They're
beginning
on
when
it
he's
on
taking on like 15 guys at once.
Dude, Robin beat the tar out of some dudes there in that first scene or so.
But yeah, so I've just been following along Star Wars, man.
Well,
There's Star Wars month.
lots more Star Wars to come.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, why don't we get on to some nerd news? All right. So, did you catch the Black Widow trailer?
Sure did.
What do you think?
Looks interesting. This is different than any MCU movie we've seen before, I think. No superpowers, no magic or anything like that.
They all came from the same school, I guess, or where they trained you.
Yeah. It looks like they're messing with the time travel stuff again, though, because I feel like I saw a second of her in her time travel suit from Endgame. Or am I making that up?
No, it looks like it. It's this white suit she's wearing, and I don't know what that's all about, because this is supposed to be, was it post-Avengers 1?
I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be around that time frame.
Man, I can't keep up anymore. I'm 30.
Actually, no, it's before Avengers 1, because the red in her ledger that she's telling Hawkeye about that she needs to erase, apparently she does it in this movie.
Oh.
Which is how Tony's able to have a cameo in it, because it's all before the first Avengers.
Well, we did see where Hopper's been this whole time.
Right? He's been kind of bulking up and getting a little fatter and muscular at the same time.
David Harbour. David Harbour.
Yeah. He's playing the Crimson Soldier.
This comes out in what, May?
Yes.
All right.
Is this the first thing
I think it is. This
of
is
the MCU?
Yeah. This is the first thing since Far From Home.
Yeah, exactly. And it's different, as we saw. And it's going to be weird not having a full year of just movies, because their primary slate is all Disney Plus original shows. After Black Widow, we get Eternals. I think that it could be good.
It could be good. Listen to yourself.
Listen,
Just stop yourself. It's going to be great. What did you think about Guardians before you saw it? Well, it could be good, I guess. Whatever. And it was great.
I hope I'm wrong. But I knew more about Guardians than I know about the Eternals. I'm going in knowing nothing.
It's okay.
And I'm a nerd.
You think they're not going to tell you everything you need to know?
I mean, I guess, but I just feel like there may be...
What else are they going to do? They've done all the big hits, the Spider-Man, the Iron Man, the Hulk, the Thor, all that stuff. And some of it's still going. They got to dive into some of this, backwoods stuff.
The obscure stuff.
Obscure.
Well, we're also getting Shang-Chi.
Yep.
And the 10 Rings, which we'll get to meet the real Mandalorian, finally. And also the Multiverse of Madness, Doctor Strange 2.
The Mandarin, by the way, not the Mandalorian.
Mandalorian.
You still got Mandalorian.
It's all Disney.
Hey, and you know what?
it's
Star Wars month.
It's
Star Wars month. Connect everything to Star Wars.
Or it's all roads lead back to Disney.
Exactly.
So, we get to meet the Mandarin finally, and I don't know. I know more about Shang-Chi than I do the Eternals. So I hope I'm wrong. I'm probably going to be wrong because, like I said, it's Marvel, it's Disney. They're going to be fine.
It's going to be good.
But most of their slate is all Disney Plus original stuff as well, which you have to watch.
I have no complaints there.
You have to watch that stuff because it's going to also tie into their movies. Brilliant. All right, so moving on. Again, just stating, I'm excited for Black Widow.
Yeah.
I am.
I am too.
So, Daniel Craig has announced that he is retiring from James Bond after the upcoming film No Time to Die.
How about that?
I got no time to care. Moving on. Godzilla vs. Kong release will be pushed back from March of 2020 to November of 2020 because it would have been pitted against the Eternals. Smart. This is a direct sequel to Kong, Skull Island, and Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Did you see either of those?
I did not. I heard great things about that last Godzilla, though.
It was really good. It was better than the one with Cranston in it. Because, a few years ago there was a Godzilla with Cranston.
Yeah, I remember that.
This was the follow-up to that, the one with Millie Bobby Brown.
Right.
This movie is going to be a follow-up to that and the Kong movie that had Loki and Captain Marvel in it.
Interesting.
So we could see returns of all of their characters, but we definitely know that Millie Bobby Brown is returning.
Yeah.
Which is exciting.
Always.
We love Millie Bobby Brown.
Sure do.
All right, so moving on.
The Mandalorian has topped Stranger Things as the #1 streaming show of all time.
That's crazy.
It is kind of crazy.
Okay, because The Mandalorian has had how many episodes?
4.
4 episodes. 4 episodes it took for them to top a dynamite of a show that has had 3 seasons of holding this record. That's crazy. In 4 episodes, he turned the upside down, right side up. Hey. But I'm not complaining. Rightfully so. I mean, it's a fantastic show. Moving forward, the ink has barely dried from J.J. Abrams' multi-year first look deal with WB and his company Bad Robot, and it seems that they are already courting the director to continue the Superman saga.
Do you think Superman's cursed?
Yeah.
Because it has not worked out so hot.
If you need, not just you, but the listener also needs to go, there is a recent interview with Cavill I watched yesterday on The Witcher. And the interviewer keeps talking about Man of Steel and all that. And he goes, and he's basically like trying to say, like, trying to weasel his way into getting some information. And what Cavill says is, this is what I want to tell if I am to don the cape again. This is the story I want to tell. And I know Snyder's wanted to tell it. And I know that JJ's wanting to tell it and wanting to tell it. Not wanted. He said JJ's wanting to tell it.
Like
Currently. And he goes, so, are you going to don the cape again? And Cavill just smiles and says, I can't tell you anything. So, I hope he at least comes back. I know we lost Batfleck, but knowing that the Flash is coming back, Cyborg's gone. So far we've just lost Cyborg and Batfleck. They could continue this Justice League and subtly bring in Pattinson as the Batman. Maybe something happened. Maybe
But I still feel like anything like this, where you're trying to build this universe and you don't have that consistency with some of your major characters.
No.
Like if we had had a different Tony Stark halfway through the MCU, it would have been less than. It would have taken so much away from it, in my opinion.
No,
You know what I mean?
I completely agree.
I feel like if I'm DC, I'm just gonna say, you know what, this whole thing's been a wash. I'm just gonna start from scratch, all over again.
And it might be
Hopefully-
smart too.
Yeah, hopefully have people who'll stick around and see it through.
Well, I mean, I think Pattinson's willing, apparently. He's signed on for a trilogy.
Yeah, but he hasn't even gotten through the first one.
I know. We'll
Everybody's willing
we'll
in the
see,
first
we'll
one.
see how that happens. All right, moving on. The Guardians of the Galaxy 3 script is finished, and Karen
Yay.
Gillan, a.k.a. Nebula from the MCU, has revealed it is wonderful.
I'm
Of
sure
course it is.
It couldn't be anything less than
It's
that.
gun. It is moving on. It is rumored that Black Adam and Shazam movies will be the way DC brings in characters like Dr. Fate, the Hawks, which is Hawkman and Hawkgirl, Stargirl, and even Zatanna. Also, Joker's director of photography has jumped on board to be the DP of Black Adam as well, which means maybe it'll give us that grit that I know that Shazam. We talk about Shazam in one of our deleted shows that we may release to Patreon one day.
Okay.
Black Adam needs more of a grit than Shazam has. Shazam is the MCU movie that DC made.
You're talking about with how light it is.
Yes.
It's very lighthearted.
Very lighthearted.
Fun.
Knowing that the Joker's DP signed on makes me think that they'll go in a different direction with Black Adam. Maybe a more normal DC look.
Yeah.
Very exciting stuff. And The Rock, I think he'll do great at Black Adam.
The Rock's great at everything. Dwayne Johnson is one of those guys who is just talented with everything that he does. I mean, he's such an entertainer.
He is.
And anything that he's doing, I'm willing to watch it. And bringing him into the superhero world is so
Smart.
exciting. Super
I'm
smart.
very excited DC got to it first because it was only a matter of time before MCU was like, hey, why don't you play this guy?
Yeah.
So
see.
thank the Lord. Moving on. Word from the Batman is Pattinson is having trouble bulking up for the role.
Bless his little heart.
It's his little twinkle vampire heart. So, I mean, protein, man. Get that
I
protein.
think the point we're trying to get to here is neither one of us are surprised by this.
No, we're not. Of course, does he have to be Batfleck big? I mean, Michael Keaton wasn't that big.
No.
Go with a different Batman. He's a younger Batman anyways. Maybe he's not bulked up yet.
Yeah.
But whatever. And last bit of news. The hashtag Release the Snyder Cut movement is stronger than ever as Darkseid actor Ray Porter, yes, I said that, Darkseid actor Ray Porter, and Kevin Smith have begun joining the movement. Aquaman himself, Jason Momoa, has stated that he has seen it and the fans should too.
Tell me more about the Snyder Cut.
The Snyder Cut is the version of Justice League that Snyder completed and filmed 90% of it before having to leave because of family issues, and Joss Whedon took over.
Right.
Whedon cut a lot of his stuff and refilmed things that Whedon wanted to put in as opposed to what Zack had. So Darkseid was in it and played by this Ray Porter guy.
Interesting.
Darkseid was, no pun intended, the end game. He was in the scene at the end.
Okay.
And the way that Momoa has said that this scene is they're all back together, the Justice League, and they're looking up at the sky, and his ship arrives, and the camera pans, and he's just standing on the edge of his ship with his arms behind him. If you've watched any of the thing that Darkseid is in the cartoons, he has the same stance and everything he's in.
Same pose.
Yes, his Darkseid pose. And there are more characters in it. There's a lot of Star Lab scenes that were cut. Mm-hmm. There are 2 or 3 Star Lab names that a DC fan would know. There's an Iris West scene with Barry.
Wow.
There is tons of stuff that Whedon came in and just pulled out and ripped out.
I'd like to see it.
And
how do we join this movement?
You just tweet it, hashtag it. You know, go after the Warner Brother executives and say, you know, we deserve this. Zach deserves it with all of his work. We deserve it as being fans. And basically, Momoa also said in the interview that when people see, if and when people finally get to see this, they'll ignore what they saw in theaters.
Wow.
And I was like, oh,
that's going to take a lot.
It's gonna, yeah. I watched over it again about 3 weeks ago. I don't hate it as much as I
really
did.
don't hate it. I think it's very underwhelming. It's just kind of there, you know.
Yeah. And I think it would have been bigger knowing there's a bigger universe following it as well.
I think that Marvel has ruined that for us.
Yeah. Knowing like, well, we know something's coming next.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that is the end of your nerd news.
All right. Well, I think that with that being said, without any further ado, we should go ahead and get to why we're here.
Yeah.
Which is our first big Star Wars discussion where we're talking about the BMFs, the biggest, meanest fighters of
the galaxy far, far away.
Yeah. And, of course, we're joined by our friends,
yes,
Ken and Padawan Jay, over at the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour podcast.
This is our first crossover episode.
Yeah.
With another podcast.
I'm honored.
I'm very
these
excited.
guys were a lot of fun.
They were.
We had a great chat, lots of fun. I'm excited to talk to them again.
They're a little it's a little intimidating to me because they're so well spoken. And like Ken has this fantastic DJ voice.
Has such a good radio
voice.
He
has a radio voice. And I'm sure talking to two Southern boys was not that.
Yeah.
Well, they were probably like, we should slow down and enunciate, you know. Yeah. But we had a blast. And we're just going to move on with the show. And we're going to hear a word from a sponsor. And then we're just going to play our phone conversation with them. And what we did was we broke down, each of us had a list of what we thought were 10 of the biggest, meanest fighters of the galaxy, and we had a blast.
Yeah, but at the same time, there were a few other things that we talked about here and there too. So it's
all Star Wars from here on out for the next month. So this is kind of that beginning of the end of our first season too. Yeah. So we're very excited that ODPH joined us. So I guess we'll talk to you guys later.
See you next time.
You know, nerds, when we are working on the show or playing video games or hooked on Disney Plus, we get hungry. And we have one choice. That's Akita Express. Akita is a family-owned restaurant where they treat you like family and feed you until you are full. Full service portions and quality food at a fast pace. They honestly believe in providing the best customer service and fast food for a reasonable price. Fresh hibachi grilled food in a matter of minutes. If you haven't tried it, they will find something you will enjoy. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Give Akita Express a try. They're at 3100 East Morse Boulevard, right here in Morristown, Tennessee. And when you stop by, tell them 30 and Nerdy sent you.
Hey, this is Padawan Jay, Coach Duffy from the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour podcast, and you're listening to Josh and Tyler on the 30 and Nerdy podcast.
What's up, guys? We are here with the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, ODPH. How are you guys doing?
What's going on? 30 and Nerdy. So glad to be on the show. This is Ken M.
Hey, it's Padawan Jay.
And we are ready to talk some Star Wars with you guys.
Dude, we've been stoked for this, I'm telling you.
Likewise, man. We've been talking about this all week, man. We are ready to get on. Thank you so much for having us on.
Absolutely. We're very excited. Making a list of 10 was harder than I thought it'd be because I could probably do 20 or 30.
Yeah.
So this will be interesting to hear everybody's top 10. So why don't you let the listeners know a little bit about what you all do and where they can find you?
No problem. We are located on the 607 of upstate New York, and every episode we talk a parlay of topics. We'll talk sports, we talk pro wrestling, we talk movies, TV, comics, and more. You can find us on OchoDuroParlayHour.com, and you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeart, Spotify, Stitcher, Podchaser, Podbean, and more. Basically, if it's a podcast site. You can find us on there and just type in the hashtag ODPH. We pop right up.
Absolutely. Well, I love your show. And
Same.
Thank you so much, man.
Josh
so
is
likewise, man. This is definitely.
Thank you. Josh got hooked on it, and we, we're part of the Podchaser group, Nerd Nation, or not Nerd Nation. That's our
Pod Nation.
Pod Nation.
Pod Nation.
Yeah.
3 hours later, and everybody there.
Yeah.
He's just trying to do a little extra plug for us.
A little extra plug.
That's our fan base.
3 fat nerds, and we've grown just since you invited me into the group. We've grown exponentially in the past few weeks, getting new independent podcasts in the group and pod rating and all that, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, that's one thing. I mean, we've been lucky. We're in a few groups. I mean, our hometown group is hashtag 607 podcast, and that's us, 3 fat nerds and Horror Zone 607. And, just kind of networking and building off that. And we're lucky we're in another group called Next Wave, which is led by Wondersoul. I'm not sure if you know who that is. I think actually he's in Pod Nation now.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, that's the group he runs, and I mean, we've been so lucky to make so many connections and meet some fellow indie podcasters that it's really helped us grow. And just over the course of 2 years, I mean, just to say the impact that's had, and now we're in Pod Nation too. Shout out to 3 hours later, and just seeing how that's growing and meeting up with fellow podcasts like yourself. I mean, it's been truly a great, great action to have for us. So, and it just helps everybody grow too.
So we have our special guests here because they were the ones who gave us the great suggestion to talk about the BMFs of the Star Wars universe, and that's the best. What are we calling them?
We could say it's either the best melee fighters or the baddest and meanest ones.
Yeah, we're gonna call them the baddest, meanest fighters of the Star Wars universe.
Yes,
and so they gave us the suggestion to talk about the BMFs of Star Wars. And I like to consider myself a pretty big Star Wars nerd, but it sounds like Padawan J might have me beat here. So I'm really looking forward to what names he's going to throw out of the woodwork here.
I'm excited. So shall we get started, gentlemen?
Absolutely, let's do it.
We're not going to go in any particular ranking order. We're just going to throw them out there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So how about you go first, Pad?
Yeah, sure. So I'd say from probably my number one baddest. You got to put Darth Vader number one. I mean, the guy just, whenever he walks in a room, everyone kind of stops, turns, freaks out. I mean, there's that classic scene from Rogue One, walks in and everyone just freaks out and tries runs and is scared. Number two, I've got Cad Bane, of course, the bounty hunter from Star Wars, the Clone Wars animated series. If you're not familiar, you should get familiar. Was good enough that he went toe-to-toe with both Obi-Wan and Anakin. Also got a few contracts from Palpatine himself. So, you go toe-to-toe with those guys and you get word from the Emperor.
And Cad was the guy who had the big wide-rimmed hat and he had like the red eyes, right?
Yep, that was him.
Yeah.
Third, I've got Grand Admiral Thrawn, somebody who used to be in the old canon, but they brought back into the new canon. Basically a guy that is 4 steps ahead of you while playing 6-dimensional chess.
Jeez.
The ultimate tactician knows what you're doing before you do it and will let you go just because he knows he's going to catch you 3 steps down the road. After that, I've got Han, of course, because, he may not have it in the guts department, but I think he does in the fact that he routinely faced down the Empire, head on, running at him full tilt and just didn't care and just kept going. After that, I've got Luke, of course, because some of the same reasons I mentioned with Han, routinely facing off against the Empire and chasing him down and fighting him, and while also simultaneously fighting Darth Vader, one of the baddest, if not the baddest, Force users in the galaxy on multiple occasions and coming out living from that. After that, I've got Darth Sidious. I mean, come on, the man manipulated things for the better part of 20-plus years and is still somehow alive. You're definitely bad if you pull that off. After that, I've got Obi-Wan Kenobi. Man fought Darth Maul twice, fought Dooku Lord knows how many times, and just everything he did in surviving and lasting, you got to be tough to make it through all the stuff he did.
Not to mention he killed General Grievous.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, beat General Grievous with all of his 4 arms when nobody else could. After that, I've got Padme, really stood up for, the thing I think a lot of people don't realize is when she's introduced into Phantom Menace, she's, I want to say, 14 or 15.
Right.
She's super young, so at 14 or 15 years old, she's facing down an intergalactic, Federation for trade or whatever it is, and taking them on head on. And then, 10 years later, so she's in her 20s, and here she is taking on, basically the start of a civil war. And playing her part in the government and all that, and just fighting and commanding while not losing her morals or giving any steps back. After that, I've got Asajj Ventress, of course, also from the Clone Wars animated series. I mean, she fought Anakin and Obi-Wan to a standstill on multiple occasions, fought Darth Maul, fought against Dooku, and a whole bunch of others, and lived to tell the tale. So you definitely got to give her some respect for that. And then to round out my top 10, I've got Darth Maul. I mean, the man was cut in half and lived.
Mm-hmm. Probably the most underutilized part of the original of the prequel trilogy, I believe.
Yeah, no, I'd say so. Especially I remember the previews coming out, and you see that double-bladed lightsaber, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's going to be amazing. And then it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's interesting. I had Darth Maul on my list too, of course. And have you guys looked into this new game that just came out, the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order game?
Seen a little bit of it, haven't had a chance to play it yet.
Yeah, I just started playing it a couple of days ago, and I'm hooked on it. I'm telling you, it's like a mixture of Tomb Raider and like Dark Souls or something like that. There's a lot of challenge to it. Very realistic combat. Like if you get hit 2 or 3 times, potentially you could be dead. But it's the saber combat in that game is so fluid, and it's the best that has ever been done in any Star Wars game before. And you can like very seamlessly switch from a single bladed saber to the double saber, and you can split apart into the dual wielding sabers. So you talking about Darth Maul, like the first time we ever see that double-sided lightsaber way back in the day when we first saw Darth Maul.
Yeah.
And it just made me think about how much fun I'm having with that double-bladed saber on that game.
Because we had never seen a double saber yet.
No, it had only been
kids.
Single, regular lightsaber.
Yeah. And if you don't mind me asking, how old are you two?
I am 39.
I'm 30.
All right. 30 and 39.
Okay.
So you're definitely part of the club.
Yes.
You as kids saw the prequels come out and grew up watching the originals, obviously.
Yeah, the prequels for me, I wasn't too impressed with. I honestly thought like Lucas was making like a backtrack for money.
I would agree.
Yeah,
We have recently, I have recently learned that Josh has started to like them more now than he did, rewatching them.
Yeah.
And I've tried to join him on this, and with Phantom Menace, I've skipped. I just could not finish that movie, and I went on to Attack of the Clones.
Tyler, I'm right with you.
I was man.
See, I grew up in this weird time where, it was after the original movies had all come out, and then when the prequels came out, like the first one came out when I was 9 years old. So those for me were my movies. Those were the ones that, watching all the time with my brother and sister when we were growing up, that like, okay, it came out on, I can't tell you the number of times we watched, Phantom Menace on VHS, and then we just watched them over and over again, because they're not perfect by any means, and I'm not going to sit here and say, they're the most perfect movies ever. They've got their issues, they're not perfect, but on some level I do enjoy them.
You know what? That's exactly the same for me. I've been rewatching all of the Skywalker saga, as we lead up to the last movie in a couple weeks. And so I was sort of dreading watching the prequels, but I found that I really enjoyed it. And it's sort of what you were saying, like there's the nostalgia of it. I remember being younger and watching them, being so excited about them. And to be honest, I'm just sort of a shill for this stuff, man. Like, if it's Star Wars and I've got lightsabers and I've got battles and Star Cruisers and stuff like that, I'm happy. I'm going to sit back and enjoy it. Yeah, like you said, there's issues with the prequels. Like, anytime Jar Jar Binks was on, I'm, like, rolling my eyes. I'm ready for it to be over. Some of the acting... Some of the acting is atrocious. Like, I couldn't decide if it was just really bad writing or really bad acting or both. Some of the stuff with Anakin and Padme was just brutal. It was just, like, cringe. And I had a really hard time with those scenes. But the rest of it, apart from those things and pod racing, I really love the prequels.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, like, it was just kind of, it never connected really. Like, Darth Maul came in and he was supposed to be like the new coming, and I think it's one thing when they did the updated technology, and I know you guys touched upon this a little bit too, that it really, I don't know, just didn't seem to fit and just kind of seemed forced in there.
Mm-hmm.
And just his story, just to have him taken out in the first film, that was kind of a disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mind Hayden Christensen's acting as much. I just thought the writing wasn't there. And when he finally got there, it was already at the end with Revenge of the Sith. Like, I think Attack of the Clones was one of the worst, probably the worst one. For me, it's like 1A and 1B with Phantom Menace for movies. I do agree about the pod scenes, though. I think those are great. And just overall, it just kind of seemed like it was so forced. It was just like, ugh, and where they're going with it. And plus, I'm sorry, if the Jedi Council could not figure out what Palpatine was doing, they deserve to get played out like they did.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Well,
like, I'm sorry, Jar Jar is the worst character in all of Star Wars, in my opinion. And the fact, like, they made him the most powerful senator to make the biggest decision of the galaxy, it's like...
Poor writing.
It's
poor planning.
See this coming?
Well, who else would it have been?
I would have been like, all right, if they had like a nobody in there, but it was just like for Jar Jar to come in there, and he was just like, he was so like forced in there. And like in wrestling terms, it's like when they forced like John Cena down, fans' throats, and nobody wants to see him.
Yes.
It was like, that was the kind of vibe I had, and I'm like, oh no, like, no. And the minute they were trying to push him as like the next big star, like he was supposed to be the next, I don't know, big Chewbacca or big standout character, it just was like, no, he's just not that character. And the fact they gave him such a big role in the Star Wars universe, I'm like, no.
So right, he's living as a clown on Naboo, living on the streets.
Yes, which I'm perfectly fine with his ending.
Well, much like John Cena, we don't want to see Jar Jar, but unfortunately, unlike John Cena, we can see Jar Jar. So we have to live with that.
Well played.
So you talked about the Jedi being played out by Palpatine, but that's why he's on the list of the top 10 BMFs in the galaxy.
I agree. Yeah, no, I have him pretty high on my list too.
Yes. So why don't you go on, Ken?
All right, so for mine in descending order, number one has to be Darth Vader. I mean, if you want to talk about the baddest, meanest fighter in the galaxy, his legacy has spawned now going into 9 films. Just the impact he's even made on Kylo Ren. And just where he started in the beginning, where you see the corruption, it kind of flips on the old Spider-Man, philosophy, with great power comes great responsibility. Because it almost goes into, with great power comes great rage. Ooh. And he couldn't control it when he was seduced to the dark side. And you can see just how he goes, basically, if you want to flip it to an X-Men term, he goes from Strife to Cable, and he's still dominant as an evil Cable going facing the galaxy. And just his final, like his defining moment is when at the end of Rogue One, and you just see how just devastating he can be when he's fully unleashed. And this is him now suited up with armor.
Yes.
And on his life support system. I mean, who else strikes that much fear in the galaxy?
Agreed.
Just by breathing.
Yeah.
Like you hear that, and everybody freaks out.
Yeah.
Except for my number 2, which I'm throwing a curveball here. My number 2 is actually Princess Leia.
Hey.
And where I'm going with this is, as the leader of the rebellion, she was never a damsel in distress. She was always such a strong, dominant force that no matter, like, it was Vader, even when she was captured by, Jabba, she never backed down. And she never had a big weapon like Luke with a lightsaber or Han with his gun. She always stood and took everything that was thrown at her and said, yeah, bring it. And she took care of business, and she was still a force going into the sequels. I mean, rest in peace to Carrie Fisher. But she made such a defining moment standing out amongst that trinity of Star Wars characters. Look at what she's done. And set the precedent moving forward.
Hey, wasn't Leia the first to go down the garbage chute on the Death Star?
Yeah.
And for that reason alone, she's a BMF.
Yes, she is.
Exactly. No saber, no blaster, no problem. Like, that's how she is.
Yes.
Number 3, I had Luke. I mean, he's the chosen one, the king of the Force, if we want to go Game of Thrones on this. I mean, he fought Vader to a standstill, lost his hand in the process, and he's responsible for raising Kylo and essentially Rey for the new trilogy, and he overtook Yoda, which you got to think about. For as skilled as Yoda was in all the training he did, Luke was better, and for that reason alone, he's got to be ranking up there. But I still have him below Vader, though. He's good, but he's not that great.
Yeah.
The next one I had was Yoda himself. I mean, obviously, he's trained every Jedi that's mattered. The battle with Count Dooku is the only thing that stands out from Attack of the Clones. And really, where else do you go from there? He's trained the best of the best, and his legacy lives on even now with The Mandalorian.
So let's pause. Let's pause there for a second. Let's hear your theories about Baby Yoda.
Honestly, I'm stumped. I don't exactly know unless Yoda has reincarnated himself. I know Pat is shaking his head at me. No, not a chance.
No, because he showed up in Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Which is
that's
far,
the only thing
far after this.
I could think of is just like how a new Yoda has gone basically undetected with the trilogies. Now, granted, I know the stories for 7, 8, and 9 have been written before The Mandalorian, but it's just really interesting to see the Disney's card that all of a sudden we now have a new Yoda in theory.
Right.
So, what's your take on that?
So, I'm thinking, and this could be too obvious, but what if he's a clone of Yoda? Because if they say that, he's 50 years old, around 50 years before this would be around the time of the Clone Wars, give or take a few years, right? And he did go to Kamino himself to pick up the soldiers to take to Geonosis. So could it be possible that somehow, while that happened, a clone was created?
Or did Sifo-Dyas take Yoda's DNA or whatever to Kamino with him when he first ordered the clones?
That's a really good theory. Pat, what is your take on this being the Star Wars aficionado?
Well, if my math is right, he was born before Phantom Menace. So if my math and timeline is right, I don't know. It's weird because they were so well known for a bulk of the galaxy of who the Force children were and where they were and where to find them. That it to me it seems almost it's kind of wild that another child like this, the same species as Yoda, could go undetected or to our knowledge undetected for all these years, and that they would have no idea. It's even more unbelievable to me is that they're going down this route, because when they were doing the old books that aren't canon anymore, Lucas signed off on it like, hey, you can do whatever you want, just I have 2 rules. You can't touch Mace Windu's past, and you can't touch Yoda's.
Right.
Now, this might not necessarily be Yoda's past, but the fact that, for the first time in almost 40 years, I think we're hitting 40 years next year, when Empire Strikes Back came out, we're finally dealing with, another type creature the same as Yoda.
Which is game-changing for Star Wars fans.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's game-changing for everybody because people who don't even like Star Wars love Baby Yoda. So.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's opening doors.
It's going to be scary when the merchandise hits the market.
Oh, yeah.
For Christmas season. Like, it's going to be Tickle Me Elmo times like 1,000.
You're right about that.
A Furby. It'll be a Baby Yoda version of Furby.
Yeah, and when the Wii came out, too.
It's insane trying to go to a toy store. Like, I'm not even going to try picking one up till, like, March next year, maybe. But it's going to be absolutely wild to see, like, the scenes for this.
Oh, God, yeah.
I can't wait to see the flippers on the internet trying to sell the Baby Yoda Funko Pops.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God, yeah.
$325 for a common Baby Yoda.
Yeah. And the sad thing is somebody's probably going to buy it for that much.
Undoubtedly.
Absolutely. So where were we?
He was on
list?
5.
So,
We're on 5.
On my list, let's see. We're now headed to number 5, and it's got to be Palpatine. Obviously, he went complete house of cards on the Empire or the Jedi Council. I mean, plotting and scheming. He caused a war, caused everybody to pay for his army, put Jar Jar Binks of all people in a position of power to make the biggest decision of the galaxy. And he corrupted Vader, almost got Luke, and he got Kylo Ren, I'm assuming, for the new trilogy. Like, the fact that he's still lingering on somehow, some way into Episode 9, I mean, that is just definition BMF. I mean, just how he has just been the personification of evil throughout this the movie series. It's incredible.
Can't argue with that.
Absolutely not.
So, number 7, and I know Pat is going to shake his head already because I am a big Boba Fett mark. I think that Boba is one of the best characters in Star Wars, but he got such a raw deal in Return of the Jedi that it's kind of just made him in a lot of, fans' eyes. But just for the simple fact that when Vader called in the best bounty hunters in the entire galaxy, Bob was the one who cashed in and got hot.
Yeah.
Have you heard... Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go.
Have you heard the theory that stormtroopers didn't actually kill Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru? That it was actually Boba Fett? And that this is why Vader looks at him and says, "No disintegrations."
That is amazing, and I'm fully running with that now.
Yeah, makes sense.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Because he was on Tatooine when all that happened.
Yeah.
So
that adds even more of a BMF trait to Boba Fett.
Yeah, and just to see like the small impact he's made, because you figure after the Christmas special, which we don't even need to get into, that he did his thing at Empire. Obviously, like I said, he got such a raw deal in Jedi, but I blame that on Ewoks and that whole mess right there. that he still has developed this anti-hero fan lore that is carried through and has honestly spawned. If there was no Boba Fett, it would never spawn the Mandalorian.
Right.
No.
Right.
So he has to rank in there, even though it's debatable where he ranks in this list. And I know Pat and I have gone back and forth about this behind the scenes. He is definitely not a Boba Fett fan.
Do you think we'll find out ever if he survived the Sarlacc or not? You think Disney will go there?
There's been a couple of books where they've been on a desert planet and they've alluded to somebody wearing Mandalorian armor. And then it's very familiar and it's very well known, but they haven't outright said who it is.
Yeah.
This was before the Mandalorian TV series came out, so it might be him, but they've definitely alluded to the fact that somebody's wandering the galaxy with Mandalorian armor on.
I'll even throw you a crazier theory. He will show up in Mandalorian Season 2, and he might steal Baby Yoda from the Mandalorian.
Oh, no.
A duo.
Wow.
And that'll be the setup for next season.
So
that'd be great.
We're doing these Mandalorian Mondays on Patreon, and where we break down every episode after it's aired, going into the next week. And one thing that Josh talked about in the first one is, where do you think Mando learned about carbonite? Could Bubba have, because carbonite freezing, we find out from Empire, is not used on humans. They did not even know if Han Solo would survive.
It didn't seem to be common practice.
It did not seem to be a common practice. So could Bubba have kind of like paved the way for these bounty hunters to use carbonite, and that kind of be as Easter egg?
I think that you could definitely make that argument. It seems like something that at least from what we've seen, it hasn't been something they entirely used. And with bounty hunting being kind of like this niche, close-knit group that like everybody, it's kind of like one of those fields of work where like, okay, everybody who's in the business. You might not be familiar with them, but like, okay, you know the name, you know the face. I can definitely see it being the case of like, okay, Boba freezes Han and carbonite, takes him back to Jabba, and then just over the course of however long it is between Empire and Jedi, because the time escapes me, I can definitely see it, working its way through the proverbial grapevine that, hey, Boba was able to actually capture, one of the big rebellion guys and brought him back to Jabba. Oh, how did he pull that off? Oh, he used carbonite.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a really good theory. I almost think it's the weapons maker. That I think that when you get your armor, that there's more tricks to the Mandalorian. This is the way philosophy that's shown.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
So, yeah, no, but I love that idea that Boba is secretly training everybody about this, because that would just be amazing.
I don't want Boba Fett to show up right away and like take the glory away from the Mandalorian himself. I kind of feel like the show can stand alone without Boba Fett, but at the same time, how awesome would it be if he, showed up, like you said, like in the last episode, to set up for season 2 or something like that? I think that would work.
Yeah, I do too. Like, I think that's just the parting shot. Like, he picks up one of the tracers for the bounty, and he just stares at it, and that's fade to black.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's great.
I will apologize on Twitter if that happens in advance, because I will probably be memeing that all 24 hours right after that episode. I bear no shame about that.
As you shouldn't. Shall we continue?
Yeah, absolutely. So next on my list, I put Han on there, but I could go back and forth about this. I put Chewie with him too, because they're always the duo. For Han, obviously, his emergence to become a hero and what he turned out to be for the Jedi Republic there. By the end of Jedi, he earned his stripes. Because obviously for the first episode, I mean, he really was kind of, I don't want to say he was going to be like their Wolverine. Like, you didn't know what side he was on and just kind of really standing off. And was he really with them or against them? And by the end, he really, cut his teeth, so to speak. And him and Chewie are just the dynamic duo of, what they added to the series. Next up, I have Rey. And she's honestly the only character from the new trilogy I have. Basically, when Luke co-signed on her, she's the future of the galaxy. She's going to be the last Jedi standing when it comes all said and done between Kylo Ren and her. And, I mean, just from what she's done thus far, she's definitely earned some stripes.
Yeah.
Next up, I have Obi-Wan, which, I mean, obviously, you take out Darth Maul twice, as Pat has told me, because I only know about the movies. And he took out Vader after, Vader got out of control. He's got to be up there and just guiding Luke. And, obviously when the prequel comes out with Ewan McGregor on Disney+, that'll add a lot more, and he'll probably be higher on my list. But for what we've seen thus far, he's got to be up there. And closing out my list is an honorable mention because it's brand new, but we've already touched upon it, is the Mandalorian himself. Because he's already racked up more body counts than some of the people on this list.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say than most.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just saying, 3 episodes, I mean, I started losing track there. It's like 20, so I was like, okay.
Interesting.
Very interesting. I like that list. So,
Thank you.
Do you want to go, or do you want me to go?
Why don't you go ahead?
All right, then. Starting at my number 1, I have to say Yoda. Because he's a Grandmaster of the Jedi. His understanding of the Force has been perfected in almost 1,000 years. One of the only Jedi to be able to speak to people through the Force at impossible distances. Plus, he is mastered in all 7 forms of lightsaber combat. But he's obviously favored to the Otaru, which has him jumping around like Mickey Mouse with a Keyblade in Kingdom Hearts 2. And he's
Pat just marked out for that, too. Pat is a big Kingdom Hearts fan, so the fact you just mentioned that.
Let me tell you, Pat, I'm sitting beside my custom-made, out of oak, Mickey Mouse Keyblade over here, signed by the voice of Mickey Mouse from Kingdom Hearts.
Oh, that's very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't beat Ursula in Kingdom Hearts 1, so...
To be fair, that world should have never existed. It's awful.
It's terrible.
I loved it until that point. But before that, the first time I couldn't beat the chameleon in Tarzan. So, every time I'm doing a little better.
Yeah.
It's baby steps. It's baby steps. But I think he is such a great duelist that even Palpatine and Dooku, who has been known to be one of the best duelists in the galaxy, when they're fighting him, they're trying to create distance for a reason, because his form of dueling in lightsaber is just too much for them to handle. And plus, I mean, he speaks in broken English, which is fantastic. So he's definitely my number 1, but not far behind is definitely Vader. I can't agree more with, nobody instills fear through most of pop culture. I think he has surpassed not even just Star Wars nerds, but everyone who's not even a Star Wars nerd knows of Vader, knows the red lightsaber, the black mask, the breathing, the voice, that he's Luke's father. I mean, he has surpassed just his nerddom. His skill in the Force as dueling is, and also a pilot, which makes him a triple threat. So, that alone makes him a BMF of the galaxy.
Yeah, that's a good point. I honestly forget about his flying just with everything else he does. But yeah, when he gets the X-Wing going.
Yeah. And you really don't. The one thing I will say that the prequels do give us is that glimpse into, that's why Vader's such a good pilot, because he has been since he was a kid. He's been a great pilot. That's one thing I can say about the prequels is, okay, it does set up to why he's a good pilot. He's always had that gift. Moving on, number 3, definitely Obi-Wan. He wasn't exactly a master of the Force, a 900-year-old alien or the chosen one, but he was just a man with superior lightsaber skills and a steadfast dedication, and I think to that the fact that he's just a man and just practice made him awesome. Like, he just perfected it and perfected it and perfected it. He was also the first Jedi in almost 1,000 years to defeat a Sith Lord when he sliced Maul in half.
That's a good point.
So, I think that definitely keeps him... And his master is my next on the list, Qui-Gon Jinn. His skill with the lightsaber is not the best, but his intellect is what sets him apart, I think. His wisdom impressed Mace Windu and Yoda even, to the point where he is the only person the two of them will confide in. And he is actually the Jedi who perfected becoming a Force Spectre. He saw through death, and he taught Yoda and Obi-Wan how to do that. So, that's pretty awesome. Plus,
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that.
Liam Neeson. So, I didn't want to get a phone call later.
Liam Neeson is the next Chuck Norris.
Oh, God.
Actually, here's a question for you. Do you think he's going to appear in the Obi-Wan Disney Plus series?
I
have been thinking about that.
would love that.
I hope so.
Because we're told in Revenge of the Sith that he is going to train with his former master.
Yeah.
Yoda tells Obi-Wan, "You're going to train with your former
while
master."
He's in exile, he's going
while
to
he's
learn.
in exile. So, I think Disney has the money to throw at Liam Neeson.
Oh, I
To
agree.
just
If
say,
Liam Neeson will do a Seth MacFarlane movie, then he'll do a Disney movie.
yes,
So.
absolutely,
Good point.
absolutely. And then, of course, my number 5, halfway there, Luke Skywalker. Luke was basically self-taught between his small stints with Yoda and Obi-Wan, who Obi-Wan died just days after meeting him. Almost hours even. Yeah. And if you follow some of the other stuff like the comics, he becomes almost godlike, like a deity. He was a Jedi Master who, started the New Order with those like Ben. And I know you, Pat, you know more of the outside of canon. What were the other Solo children's names?
Jason, Jaina, and Anakin.
Jason, Jaina, and Anakin.
And Anakin. So he trained them, and he led his father back to the light, beat the dark side, brought Jedi teachings to a whole new generation, and in the newest sequels put a hurt on the First Order from light years away. Now, I can't say, if you've listened, we have the biggest disagreement about The Last Jedi. Me and Josh do. I saw it the first time and was stoked because I was wearing my nerd goggles. And it was opening night, and Carrie Fisher had just died. So I was riding that wave. And then I saw it a couple more times in theaters and then kept trying to watch it when it came out. I've got it on Vudu. And I just kept finding issues. And one of them is the cynicism that became Luke. And, like, I understood that, he had a Padawan that went to the dark side and he felt like he failed. I felt like it was poorly written in Last Jedi for the character of Luke that saved the day.
It's not over
before.
yet, though.
I know.
The fat lady did not sing yet.
I know.
Nobody's ever really gone.
That's true.
Yeah, The Last Jedi, we've had some discussions about it. I didn't mind it because the one thing I took away from it was it's a new director, it's a new vision. And anytime they do that with a trilogy, it's going to be off course. Like, if you're going to do a trilogy right, you need to have the same directors, same actors for the most part, penning your story, and it has to be the same cohesive vision.
Consistency.
And when Ryan Johnson came in there, he tried switching up too much, and some of it worked, some of it didn't. But I definitely see the point about Luke, though, and it was just how they wanted to write him in there, which after watching it a couple times, I can see that point. It was just like, all right, this is what they were trying to establish, and I think they were trying to force it a little too much instead of just let it be like a natural progression.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think it coming off of Force Awakens, which is pretty much a mirror image of A New Hope, then going that different direction with a different director, I was one of those that were just thrown off. I was just thrown off by it didn't feel like Star Wars to me. And I'm getting the death glare, but it just didn't to me. I understood different director, they want to do their own thing, but I just kind of had also this Naziistic, don't touch the franchise that I fell in love with, and you're taking in a direction that I don't feel comfortable with. So I was just one of those people who the more I watched it, the more upset I got, I guess.
No, I mean, I can see that point. It's just the thing about Star Wars is it's just how it affects fandoms, especially when you talk about nerd and geek culture. I mean, it's one of the classic, iconic sagas that we all grow up on. And when we see something that goes, left to center, it is definitely going to get that reaction out of you. Like, I can fully understand that. And I think, like I said, with Johnson's vision, it was like he tried making it into a different movie than what we saw coming out the gate. Like, I think if he did Force Awakens and whatever that vision was going to be, I think then it would have made sense for what he was trying to establish in Jedi, but it just felt too dark.
Yeah.
Just like way too dark for what he was implying.
Almost like there was more Shakespearean writing to it than surface writing.
Yeah.
I don't care so much for people to point out things that they took issue with and all that. But where I get so annoyed is like the people who are so jaded about it that they're like, "Oh, Disney ruined Star Wars," and the last the Rise of Skywalker, it's going to be a disaster. It's like, you know nothing about it yet. We've seen like 20 seconds of footage from the new movie, and people are already tearing it apart and crapping all over it. Like, how do you know anything about it yet?
Yeah, that I'd agree with.
It's too soon. And so the people who are just crapping on it, like criticism just for the sake of criticism, drives me insane, man. Like, if the Disney versions of Star Wars ruin Star Wars for you, that's your problem. That's not their problem.
No. Or people who like it, it's not their problem.
Exactly.
Either.
Yeah, exactly. Especially like the people that try petitioning to have it redone.
That's crazy to me.
Instruct from canon. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, stop. And because there's gonna be bad movies all the time. But honestly, can you really say that that's worse than Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, we'll
not worse than Star Wars Holiday Special.
Nothing is worse.
You gotta go back there.
Hey, if anyone hasn't seen it, it's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube.
I actually watched the whole thing for the first time like a year ago.
Ooh.
I couldn't believe it.
God help your soul. I'm sorry.
I couldn't believe it.
We'll have an exorcism later
Especially
for you.
like when Chewie's grandpa puts on the little
Oh God.
visor thing, and he has like this
Oh man.
a lady do a sexy dance for him.
That was
It's
so
crazy.
weird.
Yeah, that's.
But it's also like a car wreck. Like,
You can't look
you can't
away.
look
You
away.
can't turn away. No, once you start, you're stuck.
Yeah. It's like quicksand.
But you know what? B. Arthur saved it.
Yes. B. Arthur.
Thank you, B. Arthur. Thank you for being a friend. All right.
All right, moving on. We've got Darth Sidious himself, Palpatine. Led the biggest and most secretive Sith ploy ever. Helps master and frame. His master was, of course, the wise.
Good Lord, boy.
I know, easy for me to say.
Plagueis
Darth
the Wise.
Plagueis,
There you
Plagueis
go.
the Wise, which if you reach into some of Plagueis' lore, he really wasn't always 100% evil sometimes. He could be fair. He wasn't like a Palpatine
Like
or
Thanos fair?
no. Probably more fair than Thanos.
Okay.
Like,
Absolutely more fair.
yeah, absolutely more fair. He learned everything from Plagueis, even the gift of immortality, apparently. He even killed his legendary master in his sleep, keeping him from transferring consciousness to another. He turned the Chosen One himself, Anakin Skywalker, to the dark side, and honestly, he tricked the Jedi almost into their own self-destruction. And I think that just makes him... You would be the only one. Would you be the only one if you don't have him?
I do have him.
You do? Okay. So that's definitely a 4 for 4. Moving on, Mace Windu. He was a prodigy in skill and mental hardiness. He can see shatter points in the Force, showing an opponent's mental and physical weaknesses. Mace didn't just master the ability of fighting. He created his own method called Vapad, to answer his own weakness. It takes the darkness he knows he has inside of him and transfers it into an energy of light and focuses in the delight of battle. Mace was the only Jedi to really master this, and any other Jedi that tried to repeat it turned to the dark side. And plus, Sam Jackson. You know?
Well, yeah.
The man, the myth, the legend.
The man, the myth, the legend. He crosses more genre than anybody I've ever seen. He's
But he
fantastic.
talks so flawlessly, too. I mean, that's the cool thing about him.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Like, going back and watching the prequels, though, like, I have definitely gained more of a respect for Mace, and it actually did prompt me to look up more of him and his legend and mythos. And, man, he deserves his own movie. I did not know.
Petitioning for it.
What now?
Sam Jackson's been petitioning for it.
I think he survived, first of all.
So did Sam.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, Sam's very vocal about that.
Yeah, Sam's very much in the camp of he survived.
I think he did. I mean, if Maul survived, Palpatine has survived. I mean, Jedi are like cats.
This is true.
I think he just landed on his feet and went into hiding.
It'd be great for Disney Plus. I'd be all for it.
Yeah. And I think Jackson, obviously, by the sound of it, would be all for it, too.
Yeah.
Disney money will make anybody say yes.
True.
Yeah, Disney has that way. The fact that Natalie Portman's coming back to the Marvel universe, that says everything. You need a balance out there.
Right? I mean, Disney truly lives by this is the way.
Well played.
Speaking of this is the way, my number 8 is The Mandalorian. His prowess, his skill, his strategy, and we've talked about before, like, the way that he can almost, and maybe this is more of Pascal, but making you see his face without seeing his face. Like, you can almost see his expressions.
He's able to emote even though you can't see his face.
Yeah, he's able to emote, and you can almost see him frustrated with Baby Yoda like you would be an animal or an infant. I think you all talked in your most recent episode about the time where he is trying to leave the planet, and he decides to, he kind of sighs and turns everything off and goes after Baby Yoda. You can see that. Almost like you're making the faces. You catch yourself kind of making the faces that you think he's making.
It's absolutely crazy just how well he does his body language to articulate that. And
absolutely.
Because you'll never see him with the helmet off. I mean, that we know of, obviously, with going into a little spoiler territory. He explains the helmet deal.
Yes.
But just how he's demonstrating that is just, it's remarkable how he pulls that off.
Absolutely. And he has, now, like we all agree, I mean, there is no Mandalorian without Boba Fett.
Right on.
But the difference is he has created a different following than the cult following that Bubba created.
Agreed.
And I mean, of course, it's a new vehicle, and Disney's driving the vehicle, so that could have a lot to do with it. It could, but I just think John's writing of The Mandalorian and just whoever's is now. You said Pascal's in the suit, so his physical prowess alone, I think, is it's like a desperado, like we've said. And I love it. I mean, I didn't think that he'd be on my top 10, but the more I texted Josh, I was like, man, I don't know who to put in my top 10 between some of these people, and it's almost unfair to put them in the same list as Sith and Jedi. But they are BMFs of the galaxy in their own right.
Oh, absolutely. You have to put him in there. I mean, just even for, 4 episodes in now?
Yeah.
I mean, look at the impact he's made.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and he might be lowered down by the end of this season. So, and moving on to number 9, and this might be a little selfish of me, but Han Solo. Even though he's a smuggler, a scruffy-looking nerf herder, and kind of a bad dad.
He's the worst.
He's the worst dad. He's one of the best pilots in the galaxy since Anakin. He did the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs. He's witty, strategic, not a Jedi or Force sensitive at all, but he still puts it all on the line in a fight. He's got no midichlorians in his system or some of that crap.
Well, I bet he does, though.
Well, yeah.
Everybody does.
Everybody.
Yeah, no, and he really, truly, made the flying in Star Wars really stand out, too. I mean, Luke was always with the X-Wing. I know I made that mistake earlier because I said Vader was with the X-Wing. I mean, Vader was his TIE fighter. He's always associated with Luke and the X-Wing. But honestly, the Millennium Falcon has already taken on like a legend of its own because of Han.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, just what he adds to there.
And he's almost, every time he's piloting, he's almost like a bull rider riding a bull. It's yee-haw, punch it, Chewie. Just very, and I made this comparison, and y'all can crucify me. He's kind of like Jack Sparrow of the galaxy in some ways.
That's a perfect analogy.
That's a good
I have no
one.
issue with that.
Yeah.
Without the Depp-isms, I guess. But
Yeah.
and we love Harrison here at the show. We've gotten to meet him a couple times.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I was hearing in the last episode you met him.
Yeah.
Or you're talking about when you saw him at dinner there.
Yeah, bumped into him in Jefferson City, Tennessee, which is weird to say.
Yeah, that's wild, man.
And finally rounding out my list is Count Dooku.
Okay.
He was very versed in the Force and dueling at a young age. That Yoda recruited him himself. His skill as a duelist was always remarked by all Jedi and Sith alike. He was elegant in his movements and classical in his way of life. He even made his weapon with a hilt to perfect his Makashi form. He carried himself with elegance and diplomatic as a Sith soldier. He left the Order on more ideological terms as opposed to emotional terms. He truly actually felt that the Jedi didn't learn from their mistakes, ever. And there was an arrogance in Jedis that he didn't want to be a part of. He actually did not join the dark side until years after he left the Order. And he never really sought a totalitarian government. He actually, felt like he was doing the right thing, correcting a Jedi Republic mistake, I guess. But I really keep going back to his dueling skill. It's always marked that he is a duelist. He's
one of the best.
One of the best in the galaxy. And plus, I think the movies, who they cast, kind of influenced my list, definitely, because I love Christopher Lee as an actor alone. Big Lord of the Rings fan. And I think he brought to Dooku what we needed in that character. And which puts him on my list, and I wish they had done more with him. He was older and really couldn't fight the way that Obi-Wan and them were, but it'd have been cool to get to see him show some of that prowess as a duelist in those prequel movies. But that's my list, JD.
Wow.
Let's go, baby.
Well, last but not least, I will give my list. Unfortunately, you all have stolen all of mine. I thought that I was going to get away with one, but you took my last one. Dooku was the only one I had that no one had mentioned. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. All right, so I had, number one, I had Darth Vader, of course, and you all have already very justly put him number one. You didn't know so much, Tyler. Where'd you put him?
Two.
All right, that's not bad. I can let that go. So I think he definitely has to be at the top of the list. He can intimidate people just by breathing. He can choke people with his mind, and he killed a bunch of dudes at the end of Rogue One. So he's awesome. Number two, I have Yoda. He's one of my all-time favorites. I love the really wise mentor characters like Dumbledore and Yoda and
Herschel.
Herschel in The Walking Dead, like the old guys that have been there and done it, and as long as they're around, you feel like everything's going to be okay. So I love those characters. So Yoda's my number two. Number three, you got to go with Palpatine. The fact that he was able to influence the entire political system that they had going in the galaxy that way. He fooled all the Jedi and worked so closely with them for so many years. It's incredible. And possibly learn how to prevent his own death. We'll find out in Rise of Skywalker. Number four, Obi-Wan. We have seen such a huge span of his life in the movies, starting when he was a Padawan up until his death in the first Star Wars. And
all the Clone Wars things that we got to see, all the duels he had. We talked about how he beat General Grievous, who was a known Jedi killer.
Yes.
Obi-Wan was able to take him on single-handedly, so that's pretty good. Number 5, I have Count Dooku for all the reasons you've already mentioned. I love a good villain, especially one played by Christopher Lee, so therefore Dooku has to be up there. I had one, Padawan Jay, you mentioned this one, Thrawn. I thought that I would get away with being the only one to do that. Grand Admiral Thrawn, he is Chiss, I believe is his race. And he's blue, and he's got these red glowing eyes. Tyler, you don't know much about him.
No.
He was in the Rebels series. Before that, years ago, he was in some books that are no longer canon. But if you notice in the Empire, all of the characters are humans, right? Grand Admiral Thrawn is the only, that I know of, alien who is a part of the Empire, especially so high-ranking, because he was able to convince Palpatine that he deserved a spot in the Empire.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And he was actually, as far from what I understand, he was a spy for the people on his planet, like checking into the Empire and stuff like that. So if you're able to get past the Emperor like that, you deserve a spot as a BMF. Next, I have Han Solo, of course. You just talked about him. He's definitely a BMF, one of the best pilots. We all love a scoundrel, so Han is the best of them all. Princess Leia is number 8. Very strong leader. Doesn't let the fact that she's a little girl in a big galaxy prevent her from doing what needs to be done. Love that about her. She's iconic to a lot of young women throughout the world since we first saw Princess Leia in the 70s, so an icon in that regard as well. So I got to put her up there. Number 9, Darth Maul, we've talked about already. The fact that he survived being cut in half and falling down a big pit, and went on to be in Solo.
Yes.
Spoiler alert. Which I guess now we're not going to see where that goes, unfortunately, because they put a stopper on the Solo movies.
Yeah.
Well, what was your take on that movie, actually, you guys?
I liked Solo.
It was.
Tyler didn't seem to care for it.
I didn't hate it. It was. It just was for me. I mean, there were good moments.
I think the thing that if people can look past the fact that this guy is not Harrison Ford, he's not. No one's ever going to be Harrison Ford.
Well, not just that, but he's not that generation of Han Solo. He's a completely different era Han Solo. That he might not have some of his Soloisms yet that people grew up to, so they've got to get past that, and you've got to get past the fact that this is a story that we don't know, and it's all original content. And I think one thing that I think it suffers from is that we live in this day and age where you've got the battle of the casual moviegoer and the nerd.
Yeah.
I think a casual moviegoer would look at things like Batman versus Superman and probably think nothing of it. And then you've got us who are like, what the heck? The Martha line,
oh my God.
We're picking it apart where people are like, man, that fight was good. But hey, they finally got on each other's side and they beat the bad guy. And you're just like, yeah, but the whole Martha thing, well, I didn't notice that. And it's like, no, we noticed it.
Yeah.
So
it's tough.
Making both sides happy, you're never going to do. And I think Solo tried to make both sides happy. Kind of. So maybe it just fell for me. It wasn't terrible. I mean, it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't a Batman versus Superman feeling for me. But
no, I agree. I fully agree with you on that, Tyler. Like, for me, I'm in the same boat. Like, it was okay. I like certain parts. I mean, I didn't even think the guy that got to replace Harrison Ford was that bad.
No, he was good. I liked him.
No, I thought he was good for what it was. It was just kind of like, all right, and it explained how he got the Falcon from Lando, which, I mean, Donald Glover as Lando was amazing.
He was perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so, I mean, but we have this discussion with, like, a lot of, fans on the show, too, about, like, it's very polarizing feelings towards Solo. Like, some really love it, and some are like, no, like, just don't even, it doesn't exist.
You know what, though? Like I said, for me, if it's Star Wars, I'm happy. Give me more Star Wars, and I'll be happy.
Right on, Josh.
You know what? Sabers, blasters, ships, I'm in. So that's all I need to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I had only one more. My last one, last but not least, is Mando, the Mandalorian himself. He freezes people in carbonite. He chops people in half in a door.
Yes.
He kills Mudhorns and feeds Jawas. So you can't get any more BMF than that.
Right. And he has single-handedly taken over the media world.
In 4 episodes.
Yeah.
4 episodes.
Yeah, wild.
Well, I think we all agreed on more than I like. I was worried that me and Josh wouldn't agree on some of these, but yeah, I think that who had Ray?
I had Ray.
Are you the only one?
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm shocked
I mean,
Josh didn't, because Josh loves Ray.
I do like Rey a lot.
Yeah.
Well, like the new trilogy, we haven't really seen a lot from anybody else yet. I mean, Kylo Ren is getting pushed, but I mean, honestly, other than his temper tantrums with the lightsaber, we really haven't seen a lot.
Yeah.
And his shirtless phone calls across the galaxy.
Yeah, like it's just kind of
Forgot
like,
about that.
I don't know yet. Like to be the big bad Rise of Skywalker, he's got to do something. But like I think of everybody that's been there. I mean, Rey's been the one that's stuck out. I mean, Poe is there. But, I mean, I don't know. Like, the only other one I would say was maybe, Brianna Tarth's character. I'm blanking on him.
Captain Phasma.
Phasma, thank you. But she got Boba Fetted.
She did nothing.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Twice.
Twice she got Boba Fetted.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like, you can't even say, like, there's anybody that's really standing out from this one other than Rey.
Yeah. Agreed. So we've got our list, but let's talk about maybe some theories. We're weeks away from the final step of the Skywalker saga that's been building since the 70s and crossed multiple generations. Who do you think Rey is?
I think she is either Luke's daughter, or I think maybe Obi-Wan's relation somewhere.
I've heard that theory a lot. I think that Rey is Kylo's twin sister, and they were separated at some point.
So is that Han leaving in her dream?
I don't know. I wonder if that's a real memory.
Huh.
That could be planted there.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, if you look back at Force Awakens, Roz, I believe, says, Han, who's the girl? And he gives her... Maz, yeah, I'm sorry. She asks him, who's the girl? And he kind of gives her this look like, oh, well, I got a story for you.
We never hear the story.
He knows something's going on, so I don't know. That may be a little too obvious that they're twins, but...
I would love for her to be a Palpatine.
I was just going to say that swerve of all swerves.
Like, that would be the biggest, like, what?
That would be cool. I'm happy with...
Especially if she was a Palpatine that chose Jedi.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, it'd throw a big rock in... throw a big monkey wrench in old Darth Sidious's plans.
True.
But, yeah, we're very excited, though. I mean, I'm still excited for it. I know I've got my qualms with The Last Jedi, but I'm still very excited for it. Because you can't do this movie and not answer the mistakes.
Yeah, we need some questions answered for me to be fully happy. But if they don't answer those questions, then I'm going to say that this trilogy was kind of a wash.
Yeah.
I think they're going to end on a strong note. I think with JJ back at the helm, he understands the fans' reaction, like the hardcore fans.
Yes.
And he has a good balance of pleasing them and the casuals. So I think he's going to answer a lot. Maybe leave like something hanging if they want to maybe expand this franchise further down the road. I know there really isn't any talk, but it's not to say it's out of the realm of thought. But I think they're going to answer a lot. I think the fans are going to go home happy.
I hope so.
I'm super excited about this. I mean, the trailer blew me away, and I'm like, when I saw when Kylo came out of the submarine walk there with the waves, I was like,
yes,
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'll, like, take my money
Take
now.
my
I'm good.
money. Well, cool. This has been fun, guys.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having us on. We got to return the favor sometime soon.
That'd be great.
Absolutely. We love to maybe join in on a wrestling episode. We're going to Mania. We're going to Mania this year.
Oh wow! Have you
In
ever
Tampa.
been before?
Oh yeah, we've been
to 3 apiece, I think.
Yeah, 3 apiece.
Okay.
So we're very excited for this one. I just hope that there's no dropping the ball with the Taker appearance again.
Oh yeah, we went to WrestleMania 31 in Orlando a couple years ago when Undertaker lost to Roman Reigns.
Oh.
It was rough.
I've never been. The most mad I've been other than that was when Lesnar took the streak.
Well, and we went to Raw the next night, and people were just so miffed about the Undertaker match the night before. And, like, there was some guy that I remember that we walked by, and he's like, man, this crowd would boo Jesus Christ.
I mean, we were there live and then watched it again the next week. He had recorded it.
Oh, yeah.
And you could tell that they had cut so much out of the actual
Roman
experience.
walks out, and he got booed so much.
15 minutes.
He couldn't even tie. Like, he would hold the mic up, that he would get booed. And then you go back and watch it on Hulu, and, like, they cut out all of it. It's
all
like
that stuff.
Barely there.
They're notorious for that.
To make him look good. Because they're forcing him.
Yeah. No, that's the problem. He's got the Cena syndrome. Yeah. That, like, the kids buy the merch and, like, everybody, you know, he's got to be pushed. And it's nothing against Roman. He can wrestle, but he's just never had cardio, so he can't do, like, really long matches. I mean, he's had this problem since he was with NXT. Like, he just can't go long.
No, he can't.
You know,
he's got, like, you know, the spear is a good move and all that, and the Superman punch, it is what it is, but it's like he's got to develop some more to the arsenal, it's like, to really get over.
Well, it really is a great time to be a wrestling fan, so I think that's the winner right there. Someday we need to get back together and have a wrestling chat.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, we'll make that happen.
Well, thank you guys, and good luck up there with your 14 inches of snow.
Yeah, stay safe, guys.
And ice.
Yeah.
And
yeah, we are really living Hoth life right now, so.
They should call it cold.
Jeez.
All right, well, y'all be safe, and let us know how you all fare up there.
Absolutely, will do. Thanks again for having us on.
Cheers,
Thank you, guys.
You've been listening to the 30 and Nerdy Podcast with your hosts, Tyler McDaniel and Josh Davis. Brought to you by Encore Theatrical Company, Akita Express, Creative Theater, and Advertising Expressions. Find us, follow us, and like us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Visit our website, 30andnerdypodcast.com. Got something to tell us? Drop us an email, 30andnerdypod@gmail.com. Until next time, cheers to you, nerds!